This skill is the most powerful thing I know of in sales, as I am tapping into a part of the brain, the subconscious, that gets them to feel like they made the decision to take action and move forward, regardless of what I am selling. Why is that so important? Because it does not matter what I sell. Industry agnostic. It is agnostic of the avatar of the person you're selling to. It has nothing to do with what you are selling. It has everything to do with understanding how people make decisions in their brain, and then how in a conversation to guide them to realize that this is a decision they want to make and they have an identity of someone who wants to do that. Welcome, everyone, to the Close More Sales podcast. Today, we're going to dive into an aspect of sales that transforms good salespeople into great ones, and that's the strategic power of recapping and then the art of embedding motivation within those recaps. Now, this is a super advanced technique that you won't see talked about anywhere else. This is not just about echoing back what your prospect has mentioned in passing. No, this is about strategically reinforcing your prospect's identity and motivation as being the type of person in the exact situation where they want what it is you sell, thereby nudging them toward decisions that resonate deeply with their values and desires. And that decision will feel like it was their idea. This goes way beyond the basic repetition of words. This is not just about mirroring, which we do a lot and train salespeople to start utilizing all the time. Instead, what we're going to be talking about is a nuanced skill that can dramatically shift the dynamics of your sales conversations, steering them toward not just any decision, but an identity where that decision was the natural conclusion. And the beauty of this, it does wonders for your sales effectiveness without sounding like you're just delivering another pushy sales pitch. Most sales training programs barely scratch the surface of this technique. At best, and I do mean at best, they'll tell you to listen to what your prospect is saying and then repeat it back to them. Maybe throw in a nod here and there, but they miss a really critical component, the motivational aspect that can align with your prospect's sense of self and how to tap into that. And here's the truth. Most sales training out there is pretty deficient, not just in this, but in most other areas. And that leads to salespeople who simply go through the motions, equipped with nothing more than, rehearsed scripts and a superficial understanding of engagement, of persuasion, of influence. And if you're tired of just hitting the same walls, losing deals to competitors, encountering prospects who are scared to commit with you because of market fears, or you're just blending in with every other salesperson who's ever wasted a prospect's time and you don't know how to differentiate yourself, then this episode is for you. Today, we are going to delve into this method a bit that helps you not just stand out and not through high pressure tactics or sleazy maneuvers, though this is a very tactical episode, but through genuine identity-driven communication. And what we're about to explore is advanced. This is not your run-of-the-mill sales advice. It will require a mindset shift for some of you, which is a willingness to engage with sales as a form of deep communication rather than a mere scripted transaction. So if you're brand new to sales, buckle up because this might challenge you, but it's worth grappling with. It's worth paying attention to. And for the seasoned pros listening, prepare to refine your skills further. And also, remember, mastery of these concepts, it comes from revisiting this stuff, the complexity of it, and integrating them into your day-to-day interactions over time, consistently, not just understanding them in theory. The learning comes from the doing. And this episode is designed to be revisited much like the rest of this podcast. The lessons here are layered and they build upon one another as you grow in your sales career. So if this is too advanced for you, don't worry, you can come back to it. So let's get ready to transform how you recap back in sales conversations. And it'll turn every interaction into an opportunity for profound connection and ultimately more successful closing, which leads to you making more money. So what's the purpose of this show anyway? Why listen to it? The purpose of this show is to empower sales professionals and entrepreneurs to push themselves to grow, achieve unimaginable success without burning out, and ultimately transform their lives I'm Ian Ross, and I am obsessed with all things sales. I work with teams across the world to make more money by asking better questions. The most proven path to achieving financial freedom is maximizing your earning potential. You want to make money to be able to have time. And a sales role is the lowest barrier with the highest possible ceiling for entry onto the path of financial freedom. And anyone can become a killer salesperson with the right techniques, mindset, and consistency, willingness to learn. Everything we cover on this podcast is geared toward one thing: helping you close more sales so you can live the life you want. If you would like to get a sheet breaking down all the things to say on a follow-up call so you never have to say, I'm just checking in or I'm just following up ever again, text follow up, that's 2 words, follow up to 33777, and we'll send you a template of what to say on the phone completely for free. Okay, so let's get into this here. The essence of strategic recapping. Let's define recapping a little bit. There's a few ways we can think about this. It's really echoing back an aspect of what your prospect just shared, but it's not just echoing the words. It's really looking for a few specific things. So I've talked about this before on the podcast, but it's worth touching on again. There are 3 main things I am looking for when a prospect is talking to me so that I can recap them back to them. And it's not simply the main points. That's one of it. But there's 2 other layers that are deeper. And I want to focus on one of those aspects on this episode and get tactical about it. So first, when I want to recap back what I just heard, I'm listening to highlight back a few things, really 3 things. Either what they just said to me, just like a basic summary, which is how most people do it. That's true, and that's usually what I start with. From there, I go on to how they feel or felt, so some aspect of the emotional understanding of what they just said. Or, what we're going to dive into here, some aspect of their identity. So you're talking to me as the prospect, and I want to recap back what I said, what you just said, in my own words. I will look to include one or multiple of those 3 things. Basic summary, just what you just said, so using your same words and describing your situation. Some aspect of the emotion, how you feel or felt, and then also some aspect of your identity in the recap. That's generally what I'm looking for. And the way I introduce these concepts, it gets built upon incrementally. It doesn't happen all at once, right? So we're going to lose a little bit of that context here because in an actual flow of a conversation, the recapping starts with that first point, just a summary, just what my prospect said to me. And then I start introducing the other things over time. So I'm giving my prospect a chance to feel acknowledged and heard and understood. And this is an incredibly powerful thing because it establishes a foundation of trust if your prospect feels genuinely understood, right? This idea that I'm going to make a recommendation for you. I'm going to make a prescription, as the doctor asked. Doctor-like questions, so therefore I want to be able to make a prescription the way a doctor would if you went to a doctor to have a problem solved. With symptoms, with pain, whatever, I need to ask you questions, and then I need to make a prescription. Some of that is just the questions I ask and how good are the questions. The other layer of it is the recapping back in between my questions. If I can do this right, you will feel like I understand who you are, what's important to you, what your struggles have been, where you want to go, what you've tried, and what your hesitations are. If you can mix all those together, it's an aspect of who you are at this moment in time. And if you feel like I understand who you are in this exact moment and who you want to be and who you've been, the trust factor in feeling seen by a salesperson means, what do you recommend? I'm willing to do what you recommend because you get me. This is the right type of rapport. It's not just I don't just like Ian. I don't care if you like me or not if I'm selling to you. It's fine. I'm not like, I don't want you to like me. When I say I don't care if you like me, I'm selling to you, I mean quite literally, I don't care. Not the way some people might say that, which is I don't want want you to like me, or it's not important to me in any way, shape, or form. It's just that I don't care in comparison to you trusting me. Now, if you trust someone, you're more likely to like them, but it is not the same thing. So when most sales training talks about building rapport, they're focusing on the likability aspect of this person is similar to me, has same interests, same hobbies, same mindset, whatever, from the same area. But that is superficial in comparison to trust. Trust comes from feeling understood. So in addition to great questions, I need to recap back what you say to me in a way that demonstrates a deep understanding. This starts to set the stage for deeper engagement, ensuring that my prospect will be more open to following discussions if that's what's needed to close the sale, to a higher price point than they were comfortable paying, to an additional question diving deeper into a pain that they didn't initially want to talk about. All of those things are easier for me to go into if my prospect trusts me. That's the idea here. So we're going to get into the specifics in a moment. I just want to make sure this idea hits home of what is the goal of recapping, right? So it's almost like I'm holding up a mirror. I'm not mirroring in terms of just repeating back a couple words, but I'm holding up a mirror to reflect back your identity and emotions and who you are. And this does more than just confirming details. It builds a real sort of relationship in that trust. When I reflect back accurately, I'm able to not just position myself as a thoughtful listener, but which is true, I do that. But by the very nature of them feeling understood, it enhances my credibility. And this credibility means my advice and my suggestions, my ability to be persuasive, will be far more impactful. It's effective to align where we want to go together to avoid misunderstandings. It helps maintain focus and keep the dialogue productive and on track. That alignment of we're focused on the same thing, you get me, you understand me, yes, you know what I'm saying. It also prevents the conversation from derailing due to miscommunication, which happens a lot. So many salespeople get in their own way with tangents, talking about this hobby, this pet, whatever, their family, their own hesitations, their own concerns. I would rather demonstrate I understand you through recapping statements that serves to confirm what I just heard in terms of the essence of what my prospect is saying, but also their needs and the emotions behind them. That confirmation reassures my prospect that their message, their pain, their issues, their aspirations are being taken seriously. It encourages them to continue to share, and it deepens the dialogue. So I'm always looking to recap. Okay, we'll give some examples later on in this episode. Before I even get into that, let's talk about that third part in the recapping. Basic summary, some aspect of emotion, how they feel or felt, and their identity. Why doesn't identity matter in a sales conversation? If I am able to integrate a prospect's identity into my recaps, this creates a deeply powerful resonance that can influence their decisions. So first, understand this entirely. People will pay more for identity than they will for utility. Someone in society today will pay more to maintain an aspect of their identity than the pure utility of what they are paying for. This is a really complex idea around human decision-making and persuasion, but it is very powerful. And it can be so powerful that this is how people get scammed, right? This is how people sign up for garbage programs that never delivered on the things they promised. This is behind most, not all, but most MLM type programs and operations, is they're selling you the identity of who you could be if you use this so hard. They're leaving out the nuance of how to actually get it in that multi-level marketing business or operation. So it does not mean that tapping into identity means you're scamming people or you're doing someone a disservice. It's understanding human nature to get people to want to take action. So if you avoid this reality because you're afraid of being too persuasive or tapping into a thing that's not actually related to the utility of what you're selling, and therefore, is that ethical or not? You're simply choosing to not effectively sell people. That's the bottom line. If you avoid identity. So let's talk about this a little bit more. Arnold Schwarzenegger doesn't pick up his grandkids from school in a Hummer because he needs the legroom. He does that because of the movie playing in his head about who he is. The Hummer has nothing to do with the legroom. It has legroom, sure, he's a big, tall guy. That's an aspect of it, but there's other cars that have that legroom. That little example comes through in everyone's life all of the time. We are not all buying the cheapest, most affordable thing. We're not all focused on the pure utility of everything we do. There's an aspect of identity that exists in human beings at all time, and people pay a premium to stay congruent with the identity in their brain. Understand this to its core, and you can start to tap into the other stuff we're going to talk about on this episode, which is including identity in the recap and including some powerful persuasion techniques in tapping into that identity, which is oriented around them moving forward with you now. Okay, so this is really important. Understand identity is worth more than the utility. Once we can embrace that point, like I want to be congruent with who I am, with who I feel I am, with the type of guy I am, with the husband I am, with the father I am, with the sales trainer I am, the business person, the podcaster, whatever. If I want to be congruent, I will pay more, or if I'm selling something at a discount, I will take less to have identity preserved more than pure utility. Most people who even prioritize utility is because they have an aspect of identity that they need to be the type of person who doesn't adhere to identity over utility. That's how powerful this is. And so when you understand that, you can tap into the most important aspect of people's decision making, which is who they feel they are and who they feel they need to continue to be. There can be an aspect of change in selling something, right? If you're selling a high-ticket program that involves getting someone to take action on stuff that, or make more money, or a weight loss program, fitness program, there's going to be a change in it, and that you're paying for the change. It's still their identity. They're trying to improve their identity, right? That's the perfect definition of people willing to pay more. When I talked about the MLM setup, that's saying, hey, don't you want to be the type of person who's a big boss babe who's sitting on the beach, everyone respects? Like, isn't that who you feel like you should be inside? They're not saying this is the reality of working at this company is you have to recruit all the time and you have to get people to want to sell for you. Like, they're not talking about the utility of how to be successful. They focus so much on the identity because it gets people to, sell their possessions, to do all types of crazy stuff. So it's a really powerful point. It's worth more to people than utility. And once you understand that idea and embrace it, instead of shying away from it, fearing it because that's too persuasive, that's too manipulative, or fearing it because you're afraid to even touch into this, because what if I say the wrong thing? Any of the reasons you'd be afraid to touch into this, you're doing not just yourself a disservice, you're doing your prospects a disservice if you have something of value to sell them. If you're selling them garbage, yeah, I'm hesitant to teach people this, because if you're selling people bad stuff, that's how people get scammed, right? That's how people pay way more than something is worth, is tapping into this aspect. It's the most effective video sales letters you see online, the stuff, the copy, the landing pages that gets people to pay a ton for just reading a page. They tapped into your identity. They tapped into you imagining who you could be as a person if you made this change. And isn't that worth more? Isn't that life worth more, right? There's a power in this. So once we've embraced that, we'll get into the tactical stuff here. So the technique, when recapping back what I just heard, this will make my interactions not just more personal and feel more tailored, but it'll increase the relational depth of what it is I'm talking about. If I align my communication with identity and include some identity, I make the person I'm talking to, my prospect, feel uniquely seen and understood. Because identity is beyond rapport. This is connecting on a level that transcends basic sales tactics. This is human psychology. This is human behavior. And this deeper connection fosters a level of trust and loyalty, which is not just crucial for like long-term customer relationships, but for some of the prices I see people charging for things. It's crucial to all that. It leads to repeat business, referrals, satisfied customers, people promoting your brands without even understanding them. And there's aspects where you can adapt your approach to different industries depending on what you're selling, the culture you're in, the avatar of your customer. That will increase the effectiveness. But the technique itself is kind of devoid of industry-specific stuff. This is truly a template into tapping into human decision-making and human behavior. So I want to get into it here in terms of the techniques. But if you do this right, it's so powerful. Like I just did a training on this yesterday, and I had people literally like almost jaw dropping because they didn't even realize what I was doing until I pointed out afterwards. So techniques for effective recapping. The structure of a powerful recap is a balancing act with summarizing what they said, using those words, and empathetic engagement with their emotions. The most important thing that most salespeople who start implementing what I'm about to show you do wrong is they get too cute and they take too long to get the recap out. If you take forever to recap something back, it's breaking the entire focus of a sales conversation, which is you talking less than them. Right? The golden ratio is your prospect talking 70% of the time and you talking 30% of the time as the sales professional. That's the goal in interactions with your prospects, to get them to feel like this was their idea and want to renew and want to recommend you. That we want to be in pursuit of that. Bad salespeople talk more than their prospect, without a doubt. So the risk that people run when they start implementing this is taking too long because they're trying to hit all these points. Like, I got to summarize it. It's how they feel, maybe how they felt in the past. And, oh, now I need to include their identity. Let's start throwing in identity stuff. And it takes too long to get it out. So I'll make up, truly, I have nothing prepared here on this part. I'll make up something here to demonstrate this idea of what I would recap back. And it will be accelerated compared to how I would actually do it in a sales conversation for the aspect of showing here on the Close More Sales podcast, because I don't have enough time to do a full conversation to show it being introduced incrementally. But I want the point to hit home for what I'm doing. So first, just a basic situation. Let's say I'm selling a high ticket offer to a business owner who's going to get support for their business and marketing or something. Right? It's something really generic, so I can demonstrate this idea. If I'm the salesperson, like the salesperson asked the business owner, all right, so tell me a little bit about your hesitations. Like, because I feel like you've tried some things in the past, and I'm getting the sense that you're a little bit hesitant right now. Let's just say the salesperson asked that question, which is also its own technique. It's a very good question, because what am I doing with that question? I'm orienting around the business owner selling me as to why they want this. It's a really powerful point as well, but that's for another time. So let's say I ask that question. Tell me a little bit about your hesitations, because I'm getting the sense you've tried other things. So I'm sensing some hesitation as to wanting to move forward with us right now. And the business owner says, yeah, I know. I mean, the main thing is I feel like I've been burned in the past. I've responded to stuff in the past. I've paid lots of like marketing programs, gurus, agencies. Like, I've spent money on this and I've just never gotten results. And because I've never gotten results, I'm not sure it's even worth the investment to try this again. Then as the salesperson, before asking the next question, I'd probably want to recap a little bit about that. So remember, basic summary, how they feel or felt, and some aspect of identity. We'll leave out identity for a moment in this role play. So the business owner just said that. I would go, okay, so I want to make sure that what we offer isn't something you've tried before, because if it is, then maybe you've already tried something that we can't help you with. Because if you haven't been able to get any success, there's a possibility that there's no way we could help you. But I have to learn a little bit more about what you did. So it sounds like to me, everything you're describing involves sort of falling for grand promises, which is not your fault. Every business owner does this. Like, this is the normal thing. They're great marketers and their marketing tricked you. You fell for great promises, but they didn't deliver. So what would you even need to see, I guess, to feel like someone could deliver since you've been lied to in the past? That's the even exchange. So I called out a few things there, right? Like, you could watch that little thing again. And I'll just do a different version because I'm just riffing. I'm not reading anything. I didn't prepare this role play. I'm just demonstrating this tactic. So let me just demonstrate it again with a different line on the same focus. If I say, tell me a little bit about your hesitations, and the business owner says, yeah, I feel like I've tried stuff in the past. I've worked with agencies and they promise the world, and I'm hesitant to sign up for another thing because everyone always overpromises and I never even get close to what they say they could do. And then the salesperson should say, like, man, it sounds like you've been trying to solve this for a while, and because of how good they were at marketers, they overpromised for you, which is super common for most business owners. But now you feel like you're in a place where it's like, I know I need to get this done. I know I need to take action on this, but I don't even know if there's anyone out there I can trust. That's a powerful recap. Okay? That's the power there. Because I am starting to show I understand this business owner's world, right? I did a few things there. And again, this is not prepared. I'm just riffing here. I made him not feel bad because I talked about other business owners falling for the same thing. They were such good marketers that they overpromised and delivered, and that's a normal thing to fall for. I include a little bit of aspect of burying motivation within that recap, where I talked about you feel like you need to do something about this, but you don't know if there's someone you can trust, right? I know I need to do something about this, but I don't know if there's someone I can trust. That is a really powerful point. I buried the motivation of I feel like there's something I need to do something about this. But I ended on the more relatable point of I don't know if there's someone I can trust, which is that person's hesitation based on what they told me. That business owner will likely go, yeah, that's right. I don't know how I could do it. But I buried a little bit of the motivation of I know I need to do something within that. I don't do that every time. It's too cute to bury that every time. But I start implementing that after a couple recaps to make sure that I'm orienting the person I'm talking to around an identity as someone who feels like they not just need to solve an issue, but they need to solve it now. Because time kills all deals. So I don't want to get someone to feel like they want to solve this deal eventually. I need to tether their identity to someone who needs to solve this now. And that's the way I start doing that in the recapping. Right? What also happens when I recap like that constantly is it sounds like a conversation. It's not question, 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 long recap. It's question, question, recap, question, recap, 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 question, recap. It's a conversation. There's a flow to it. And when I'm doing it that way, I can also bury more motivation within the way I do that. So people pay more for identity. Let's continue on the same role play here. So if the business owner goes, yeah, like I at this point, I just feel like everyone's lying. Like, salesperson could continue on. It's like, I don't blame you. There's probably no way we could even demonstrate for you right now, other than the fact that I'd have to ask, do you feel like I'm overpromising anything right now? Like, have I even promised anything at all? I'm differentiating myself in calling that. Like, well, no, you haven't overpromised. You haven't really, I don't even know what you guys would do. Continue on from there. Like, and the reason I haven't gone into that yet is because I'm worried if I could tell you the results we've gotten for people, I could show you like the return we're getting for the business owners who decide to use us. But because you've been lied to in the past, like you're so stuck in a place where there's nothing I could show you because you've been overpromised. So when I show you the results we get, it'll seem like we're just like everyone else. And I wouldn't want to do that to you because you need to solve this issue. And if I'm unable to differentiate from everyone else who's lied to you in the past, I'm doing you a disservice by showing you all those things. What's happening in this role play? I'm demonstrating non-neediness, which I do at all times. I'm pushing back and getting the business owner to try and sell me. on why they want to do this and why they're different. I've also included the reality that we get these results for other people. But I've called out his hesitation in the recapping of his understanding of this, that like, even if I showed you this stuff, I'm worried I would just blend in and then I'm doing you a disservice. By the very nature of recapping that guy's hesitations that way and getting him to try and sell me on why he wants to do this, I am also differentiating myself from the other people who've pitched him in the past. Because unless you're trained by us, you probably are not as good at this. So I'm highly conscious that this is a unique experience for most business owners because most salespeople suck because their training sucks. They don't do this type of thing. But what am I doing in this role play? I'm starting to get that business owner to realize we are different in the very way I call out his hesitations, and then tether our results and his identity as to someone who wants those results, but he's stuck in his own way. So he will feel by the end of this conversation, this one I'm making up on the spot, like he got his own hesitations out of the way. And we were always there as an option. And he had to beat his own hesitations first to be able to be willing to try us because he'd been lied to in the past. This is a really powerful internal battle that's happening in my prospect's brain that I'm guiding him through without overtly doing for him, which is way more effective than just telling him, no, that's a mistake, you don't want to do that, blah, 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 here's what we do, here's what I do. That's how most salespeople do this. The way we do stuff and what we train our clients on seems completely different. It comes from another world of persuasion because the reason to take action happens inside the prospect's brain and we had nothing to do with it. At least that's how it's perceived. I hope that this point is hitting home here because I truly did not prepare this role play example. I'm just thinking it up in the moment. What's important about this is we can do this for any industry and any hesitation. The framework is not based on memorizing industry-specific challenges and rebuttals. It's based on human psychology and how to weave a conversation regardless of the industry or hesitation so that the person who raises it will feel like it was their idea to take action. I've done a couple episodes now on the Vivid Selling Framework, which is the right questions in the right order to get someone to feel like it was their idea. This aspect here of the recapping back in between the questions is what I refer to as guided persuasion, which is the nuance of how it is all held together. It's how you actually ask the questions. The right questions in the right order is important, but how you ask them, how you move between them to get your prospect to feel like this was their idea truly. This seems almost alien to most salespeople. It sounds like I'm promising the world that this was their idea if I'm talking. Like, no, of course not. You sold them. You used all your techniques. If I do this right, it was their idea, and I just got out of the way.
Hey, my name is Brian. I'm a real estate investor. Ian's sales training has helped me buy more houses at a deeper discount. Most recently, Ian helped me reframe a question which resulted in me buying a house for less money than other offers the seller had on the table. If you're considering sales training, I don't think you can go wrong with Ian's.
I'm filming this video for the man himself, Mr. Ian Ross. The guy crushes. The guy's the best person in sales I've ever seen. I've invested elsewhere and I haven't got the same results. I've gone from being a seller, making 5K a month, to being a hybrid role, making 11K a month, to now be 4 months down the line from 5K to on a closing opportunity, inbound, full calendar, with the best opportunity, the best offer in my space. OTE is around 20K a month from month 2. So I've gone from 5K to 20K. If that's not a return on your investment, I don't know what is, man. If you're a salesperson and you don't invest in sales training, you're gonna get left behind because your job is to be better at sales. And sales training directly makes you more money.
If you like what you just heard and you'd like to have similar types of results, similar success, text CLOSE, CLOSE, to 33777, and we'll see if you qualify to join Advanced Sales Mastery. We are taking people from good to great. So now let's talk about the structure of a recap. I tend to start with a little bit of acknowledgement or validation. So it usually starts with a, that makes sense, gotcha, some basic acknowledgement, and then it transitions into a labeling statement. That is really important for the most part because a labeling statement, it sounds like, it seems like, it feels like, it looks like, right? that type of language, which is originally gotten from Chris Voss's Never Split the Difference, is unique in that it does not say what I'm hearing is, what my perception is. Me as the salesperson is noticing this. I want to avoid that type of language. It's calling out what seems like an objective reality that's actually the subjective experience of your prospect, which helps in their brain make them feel like you understand them. Because even though it's subjective to them, if you're calling it out using the objective language of simply noticing it rather than my perception of it, it means that the prospect themselves feel like the idea is understood. If I am including, what I'm hearing is that you're hesitant, it loses the impact of, it sounds like you've been trying to get this solved, but because you've been lied to, you're stuck in a loop where you don't even know who you can trust. It's calling out the reality of their subjective experience in a way that seems objective. So they're not even aware you're noticing it through your lens of perception. You're just calling out their experience. That means they're more willing to buy into what you're talking about because you're understanding them. You're not saying what I'm hearing is, you're just saying this is your reality. Right? It's that subtle stuff that's happening underneath, but I usually want to structure it that way. So I'm trying to touch on key points. I'm always looking for emotional acknowledgement and how to validate, and then to include identity and other aspects that demonstrate an understanding. I'll talk about how to tether that aspect of identity, especially tethering it with language that involves taking action now. So we'll continue on with the same example I'm just making up as I go, which is how to balance the nuance of what they're saying with also including other things. So I'll just continue on. I'm truly riffing on this idea. This is not written down. So the business owner goes, yeah, one of the agents we used promised us double the results of everyone else within 90 days, and they barely even got the results we were getting on our own, and I paid them all this money, so I don't even know what to do. As the salesperson from that line, little recap before the next question, would probably be like, man, it sounds like not only did you get promised the world, which they didn't deliver on, but they actually not only didn't even deliver on the world, they barely even did better than if you paid them nothing. And he's like, yeah, that's right. That was our experience. Okay. In your mind, if we can show you that we're getting results, would you even believe it? Because I have to ask this because I have no other way to help you if you don't realize that we're different from them. And I don't know how I can demonstrate that since they're probably better marketers than we are in terms of what they overpromise on. We're just focused on getting people results. So I don't even know what I could show you. Right? I'm letting him go, this is my idea. And he goes, well, maybe if you had, I don't know, the other guy had testimonials too, so I'm not even sure either. And I would say, okay, it seems like even if we are the right fit for you, because of your experiences in the past, there's no way I could demonstrate to you that we are the right fit. So in which case, I don't even know why we're talking right now, unless you feel like, even though it's scary because you've been lied to, which is not your fault, you need to take action on this once you realize that someone is even approaching you differently, because this is an issue that's been a big thing for a long time, and the only way to solve this is to actually just take the plunge again. But I don't even know if that's even you're ready to be at that state yet. What is happening? I'm giving a little taste. I'm saying take action, do things now. You sound like you're a business owner who feels like they're stuck in this circumstance. But the question is there even any way I could even show you that you have to be the type of person to take the plunge even when you're afraid? Because through no fault of your own, you've been lied to. And I don't even know how I could show that to you. I'm letting him, in this instance, it's him because it's me, letting him, this business owner, this nameless business owner, solve his own problem by also tethering an identity in the recap, which is that you feel like you need to take action on this. This is why you've been trying for forever, but you're stuck in your own way because of something that's no fault of your own. I don't know how I could even help you unless you realize that even if it seems the same, at least if I'm being approached differently, at least then it's worth it. Why am I doing that? Because I know I'm approaching him differently than the previous person who promised the world. So I'm recapping what he's telling me, and I'm tapping into his subconscious in all the ways that make me different from everyone else. Well, also, there's going to be similarities because we probably promised the same things in this example. So I'm focusing on you still feel like you need to take the plunge, even if it looks kind of the same, as long as they are approaching differently. I'm not saying directly, hey, do I seem like someone who's promising the world entirely over and over again? I think I touched on that a little bit to insert the idea to look out for it. But ultimately, what am I doing here? I am tapping into that business owner's subconscious, where he will realize in his head that this feels different. And if I'm getting him to say, yeah, that's right, I guess I do need to do that, buried underneath that is motivation to move forward with me. Right? I picked a very unique circumstance. This probably isn't relatable exactly to anyone listening right now, because probably no one is selling marketing services to business owners who's listening to this podcast at this exact time. But the principle stands out, which is that it does not have to be a business owner and it does not have to be marketing services. This can be true for buying a house at an asset, selling a fitness program, selling a Rolex, whatever. All of that can be used regardless of who I'm selling to and what. It's actually a framework. If I do this right, though, it feels so personalized to the individual that they have no idea it is a framework based on variables like Mad Libs, where I could just switch out different words and phrases because it feels so real and tailored to them. But the framework itself is devoid of industry specifics. I hope the power of this is hitting home. I am able to do this regardless of what it is I am selling. This skill, like actually being able to do this in a one-on-one conversation, is the most powerful thing I know of in sales, because I am tapping into a part of the brain, the subconscious, that gets them to feel like they made the decision to take action and move forward, regardless of what I am selling. Why is that so important? Because it does not matter what I sell. So many salespeople are like, I work in solar. I'm good in solar. I sell fitness. I do high ticket. I sell business to business. I'm in industry. I sell this. I sell that. I'm good in insurance. I know how to sell insurance. What I am talking about here is truly industry agnostic. It is agnostic of the avatar of the person you're selling to. It has nothing to do with what you are selling. It has everything to do with understanding how people make decisions in their brain. And then how, in a conversation, to guide them to realize that this is a decision they want to make and they have an identity of someone who wants to do that. I hope this is hitting home, because this is so advanced. I'm worried that this won't hit home for people who are not familiar with our training, that are just watching this episode on its own outside of the other stuff. That it's too advanced, frankly, for people to understand how to utilize it and how they can start applying it. But it keeps the dialogue moving and it keeps it dynamic, keeps it engaging, and I start to tether identity as I go through it. So again, not every recap, like every labeling statement, where I want to get a that's right, right? So like, I'm not trying to get yeses. I'm not trying to get nos. I'm trying to get a that's right. That's the goal of a labeling statement. And recaps are usually aspects of that, but not every recap ends in something where I want to hear that's right. Sometimes I just want to trigger a that's right in the brain and I transition into a question, right? So it's a unique flow that's really, really powerful. So I go like, man, it sounds like you've been trying to do this for a while and nothing has worked. I guess my question is there even a way I could demonstrate that what we do is unique compared to everything else? Or do you just like, you feel so held back that it doesn't even matter that you know you need to do this. You're just like, there's nothing I can do, right? I did like 5 things there, okay? Watch that again or listen to it again if you're listening to audio to have that hit home. It sounds like you're someone who knows they need to do this. You've been thinking about this for a while, but because of stuff that's no fault of your own, you're sort of stuck in a loop. There's no way I could even demonstrate unless you can think of something where I could show you how we are different, but I don't even know if I could, because right now, like, even though you know you need to do this, there's nothing you feel like I could show you. Right? This is essentially conversational hypnosis. I'm essentially hypnotizing the person. I'm not hypnotizing in the way of, imagine your life if you're sitting on the beach and drinking a cocktail. It's far more advanced than that, right? It's a, picture this, you're relaxed, you finally have your success, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's fine for like a video or something along those lines. But the power of a conversation is this interactive component. I am introducing all these different elements. I'm starting with a labeling statement, calling out a hesitation, pulling back about how there's nothing I could show, showing something's no fault of their own, then saying, I guess I could show you but you know you need to take action, but there's nothing I could do. It's this dance, it's this push and pull. And then what happens is the prospect goes, yeah, I guess you could show me this, or yeah, maybe there's nothing you could do. Okay, if there's nothing I can do, what were you even hoping to get out of this call? Did you just want to waste your time? Or is this something you feel like, no, I know I need to do this, and you just feel like you got to get out of your own way? I'm letting the prospect feel like it was their decision. It's so powerful when you can get good at this. Again, this takes practice. I don't do this quickly because I thought of this one time or watched this one time somewhere and then knew how to do it. I've practiced this over and over and over again. I practice when money is not on the line. I practice when I'm talking to someone who I don't think is a lead. I practice all the time so I can do it quickly. The mistake most people make is they either touch on one aspect, even though I just did like 5 in a single recap, or they touch on all 5, but it takes them 5 minutes to get everything out, in which case it loses all the effectiveness of that flow, of them feeling like it was their idea, because you spent too long as a salesperson talking at them instead of getting them to think and then talking themselves. It's really, really powerful. These advanced recapping techniques involve using really profound psychological insights to enhance the impact of my summaries, right? So I'm always tapping into the hesitations. I'm tapping into, feel like you got to do this now. You're the type of person who knows when they see something, they got to do it. I guess I should ask, is there even a thing that's holding you back right now? Or is money the only issue, right? I'm always doing stuff like that. These advanced methods, it requires practice and a sensitivity to active listening to execute effectively without seeming too manipulative. I tend not to seem too manipulative when I do this because I also don't start with something as advanced as those lines. It starts with just the summary. And then I start to avoid the common errors in communication by not throwing in identity too fast. And I'm trying to make sure I don't oversimplify while also not throwing in too much to distort the intended message, right? So you will learn to recognize the pitfalls and how to avoid them as you get practice in enhancing this over time, okay? So there's 2 ways you can think about getting good at this idea. And I'm sure some of you are like, this sounds wild. I have questions. I'd love to do this. I don't know how to do this. Text us, CLOSE, CLOSE, to 33777 if you want help with this, okay? So we do this all the time in our training. We role play how to get through this stuff. Like, here's a challenge, how to recap. Like, let's role play this. So we role play with intentionality, practice the right way. And then also just do it when it doesn't matter. I just went to go train someone's team a couple of weeks ago, and the media guy who came with me was acknowledging that I was doing all this stuff. I was doing it to like the Uber driver on the way to the airport. I'm asking him questions and then recapping back what he said. So I'm like, hey, man, how long have you been here for? What made you come here? He's like, oh, I'm here for community. Man, it sounds like you're someone who not only is community important to you, but like you also like people. He's like, yeah, I am. I do like people. I didn't know we liked people. I was just warming up. I was just getting practice to get prepared to do this when money, when revenue, when it matters, when stuff's on the line, which is the actual sales conversation. In that instance, it was training someone's team. But to me, because that was the sales conversation, to train the team. So this is really, really powerful stuff. I think I've given this example before, but I want to give it again because, again, I don't want it to seem too cute with some of the stuff I'm talking about. There's an aspect in neurolinguistics programming called pacing and leading. This can be demonstrated in the idea of talking about hypnotherapy. So when someone, let's say you want to quit smoking, and you've tried the patch, you tried the gum, you've tried everything. You've tried running a marathon, nothing's worked. You're like, I need to go to a hypnotherapist to hypnotize the urge to keep smoking out of me. Even though you want your problem solved, that hypnotherapist will still deal with a level of resistance in putting you in a trance and going through all that stuff, even though they want their problem solved. This will sound pretty familiar to a lot of salespeople. Someone's coming to you, they responded to the marketing because they're interested in what you have to offer, but they still have resistance to it. Why? Because they do not feel like they can trust you because you have not demonstrated that you understand them yet. You don't understand who they are, their what, their why, their future, their challenges, their past, their aspirations. You have to demonstrate understanding to build the right type of rapport, which is trust, to let this stuff hit home. So, because they're in that setup, the hypnotherapist, if he even puts them into trance in the first meeting, which most hypnotherapists actually won't because they just want to get to know them first so they can demonstrate this idea. Once they put you in the trance, they will start calling out inherent truths that the brain won't argue with. So they'll start saying, you're lying there on the couch, your eyes are closed, there's still some light in the room, so you see light through your eyelids a little bit, it's not completely dark. As you take deep breaths, you slow your breathing, your heart rate begins to slow. They're saying stuff like that. That's inherently true that the brain is not arguing with, right? The brain is not going to disagree with any of that stuff. That's pacing. That's going, like we're pacing together. And then they will start to mix things that are kind of true and kind of leading. They will start to say, as your heart rate slows, you feel yourself relax. As you feel yourself relax, you feel the stress start to ease off your shoulders and sink into the couch. As you feel that, as you feel your heart rate slow down, you feel the oxygen fill your lungs, you feel it move into your fingertips, down to your toes, and you take a big deep breath and exhale. They do stuff like that. And then if your patient, in this case, breathes in and breathes out in the big exhale, the hypnotherapist knows they're starting to lead. They're starting to impact that person's reactions based on the picture they're painting. Why is that so powerful? And why do I bring that up now? If I am recapping back what you say to me in a sales conversation, I don't start with, you are the type of person who needs to take action right now. I don't start with that stuff. I start with the basic aspect of summarizing what you said. Hey, it sounds like you've been going through stuff for a while, but nothing's really worked. Nothing's really worked for you, and now that's why we're having the conversation now. There's nothing in that is too leading in the, you're someone who knows you need to do this, but there's nothing I can even do, right? That comes incrementally once we're in the right type of rapport, which is you trusting me because I've demonstrated it. This is a really nuanced episode. I hope it's hitting home. Let me know in the comments on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, if this is hitting home, and if you want more of this type of stuff. Right? Understanding emotional and psychological states of your prospects is really important, right? And these techniques will make your interactions not just be more impactful, right? But it'll make you even seem more intuitive to who they are. If you understand how the brain is going to process what you're saying during the recap, it reveals why certain techniques work better than others, right? So this is the reason some people can get away with shouting at their prospects or speaking with extreme authority. Has to do a little bit with the avatar of who they're selling. Like they're willing to connect with that. Maybe they had a dad like that. Maybe they knew someone in the military. Maybe they're just lacking so much confidence. They need someone to have more confidence than them to feel like they can make the decision. I would still say the most effective way to do this consistently is to get my prospect to feel like it was their idea. Because even if I can have success being forceful and not doing this type of thing, and just telling you what you need to do and then you do it, it will always run the risk of that person realizing later that they were talked into this rather than feeling like it was their idea. So I love to do stuff like that, but then I start, once we're starting to make enough of an impact, there's ways identity plays a stronger role in decision-making again. So let's finish on this idea of hitting about identity. What type of identity do I want to be calling out? It's usually an identity that involves someone who makes decisions, someone who knows they need to do this, someone who feels like a good dad, a good mom, a good business owner, a good salesperson, a good whatever, and therefore blank. But something in that should involve urgency and decision-making. I don't start with that, but that's usually what I'm tethering to. If I'm able to introduce that incrementally, You are the person who's been through this and been through that, and therefore you realize you need to do this. You need to make a decision because it's been a challenge for ages, but I don't even know if this is something you want to do now. If I'm able to do that right, what happens is the prospect's subconscious starts to want to be congruent with the identity they agreed to. And why did they agree to that identity? The identity part was buried underneath something else in the recap that was more direct that they thought that's right too. So again, let's say I'm trying to say someone is you have the identity of someone who is a decision maker. I don't want to end on that identity. I want it to be buried within something else so that I'm ending on something that the conscious brain is acknowledging and the subconscious then buries. So I'll use a new example. Let's say I'm trying to get someone to someone to sign up for a weight loss program. I've never sold a weight loss program. I'm trying to demonstrate that this is truly industry agnostic. So let's say I'm talking to a mom, and she wants to lose weight finally, and she goes, "Yeah, I feel like I've tried stuff, but like I'm not." And I know I need to do this just because I've continued to gain weight and I haven't been able to. It's been a really important thing for me. But like, I don't know, I struggle with discipline and like there's always food available. And then I feel like I don't have time because of the kids. Like, I don't know I don't even know if this is worth it for me right now. As the salesperson tapping into that, how I would respond to include decision making. Be like, man, it sounds like you're actually self-aware enough to know what your limitations are, to know what you've tried and why it hasn't worked. The biggest thing is not even that you need to make a decision on this. That's not even the challenge. It's the biggest challenge right now is you've got enough other people influencing in your life because you put them first that you've been unable to prioritize yourself. That's the recap, right? Does that hit home of what I just did? I could do that for anything. It's truly just a framework in understanding someone's identity. I buried that. It's not even that you need to make the decision now. It's that you haven't been able to prioritize yourself because you're caring for other people. In that instance, she will end in I'm having to care for other people. You already know you need to make a decision on this, was included within it. So the conscious brain is usually focusing on like 1 to 2 things at a time. I usually say like 1.5. It's thinking mainly about one thing and some other sort of half thing behind it. The subconscious is usually processing like 60 things at a time. So I've heard. I don't know the exact numbers or metrics on that. But it's processing all these different things. Doing that one time of including the identity of being a decision maker in that recap will not get someone to want to move forward with me. Over the course of 45 minutes, implementing this a few times will make it easier for them to feel like the type of person who wants to make a decision when you're asking for the decision at the end. So again, this is not so manipulative that I can magically hypnotize someone into realizing they're going to give me their credit card number if they didn't want to do this. All I'm trying to do is help people who already feel like they want something, feel like they want it now. But it has to be done incrementally over time to make it easier when I ask. So if I'm often orienting around something like decision maker or decision making, you're someone who wants to make a decision or want to take action, blah, blah, blah. I usually want to end my conversation, like going for the close, with something that plays onto what I've used to tether their identity to. Meaning, if I'm saying you're a decision maker or you're someone who's decisive, you want to do this now, and using the word decision a lot, I would probably end with a closing question around the word decision. If I'm saying taking action all the time, I would end with something around taking action because that's how you tap into the subconscious. If I end with some pre-programmed option close and I just tethered the identity around someone who takes action all the time, it's still more effective than not, but it's not as effective as also including the language I'm burying. This is really powerful stuff. I hope this is hitting home. So again, if I'm saying like, man, you already know you need to make a decision on this, but like you haven't been able to prioritize yourself. It's like, yeah, that's right. I mean, I'm too busy to prioritize myself. I have to ask, and this is going to seem like a tough question. Do you feel like if you were in a healthier, more energetic body, you would actually be able to be a more effective mom because you not only had energy to do what you know you want to do and be the type of woman you want to be, but you'll have the energy to help your kids more, to help your husband more, to do whatever you want to do on that side because you have energy in your body. Do you feel like that would actually be helping them, or maybe I'm missing something there? No, it would definitely be helping them. I just don't know I have the time. Okay, if our whole approach to training is actually not, you got to be in the gym, 10 hours a week or something. It's actually designed for moms who are as busy, if not busier than you, so you can get the results, so you can have the energy to be the woman you want to be and be the mom you deserve to be for your children. Is this something that you feel like is worthy of making a decision on right now? That's how I get people to feel like it was their idea. Again, that's a shortened version of what I do over 45 minutes to an hour. But that principle built over 45 minutes is why my closing ratio is so high. This is really powerful. You can get someone's identity to be the type of person who wants to take action on what it is you are selling. Again, I'm sort of skipping an aspect of like, what if you're selling something that they don't want, right? That doesn't work for this, right? This has to be something where you are providing value to someone. You're serving a need, playing on a want. Someone responded to marketing or was worthy of being on a list that you reached out to for a reason. But once they are, your prospect's sense of self, who they are, will be attached to the very idea of wanting to move forward with you. It makes it very difficult to refuse when their subconscious is orienting around that, and then you ask their conscious mind to be congruent with their subconscious. Okay? This is how to think about this. It's really, really powerful stuff. I hope there's enough in this that I touched on where those of you watching can either start practicing in life, starting with a bartender, a barista, someone at the hotel you're staying at, with a family member, with a friend, with a coworker, with an old lead, with whatever. And then you start applying it when money is on the line. This is really critical too. I want to make sure I say this one last thing before I go on. These strategies, they're not limited to one-on-one conversations, but they're most effective in that way, right? They can be used in broader marketing campaigns and selling to many, something that I'm still working on myself. But it is most effective in a one-on-one communication. And so I want to make sure I say, please, if you're going to start utilizing this stuff and giving us credit for talking on this idea, which I haven't seen talked about anywhere else in terms of sales training this way, this level of a tactic of how, regardless of the industry, I can tether your identity to being the type of person who wants to move forward with me and wants to move forward with what I offer right now. If you're going to do this stuff, please do it ethically. It seems like a weird request on this podcast, but this stuff is really, really powerful. I usually don't talk about this level of influence on free stuff as much because I'd rather know you paid me money to feel like you want to keep using this, and then I can hold you accountable to being ethical, right? So please use this stuff ethically. These skills, if you do this right, if you actually start introducing this to your conversations, will transform not just your closing ratio, not just your numbers, not just how much money you make, because it will do all those things. This will also help your relationships. It helps you build deeper connection with other people. You will have better conversations. If you are eager, if you're like, I want more of this, I need to keep, how do I join this? How do I apply this stuff? What can I do? Because you got a taste of it now. If you're ready to dive deeper and refine these skills so you can actually get anyone to feel like it was their idea to use whatever you're trying to convey, text CLOSE, CLOSE, to 33777 if you want help with what we talk about on this show. I'm Ian Ross. This has been the Close More Sales Podcast.